Well, hello folks. Just wanted to jump on before the main feature to tell you we had a great time filming this video. In fact, probably for me, too much fun. The first 15-20 minutes of cameras rolling, we sort of started talking to each other and press record. And for the first, as I say, 15, I was basically like an excited puppy. I'd not seen Simon for probably 20 years, and to say I was happy to be in his company was an understatement. As such, we haven't included any of that. And that bit of footage contained all of the stuff that we spoke about to begin with, which was his equipment setup, really interesting stuff about the gear he uses and how he gets his, quite frankly, insane guitar tones. So I can hear you screaming at the screen, why have you deleted that footage? We've not deleted it. We've gone one better than that. We're going to do a part 2. I also felt that given the abilities of the man and the knowledge that he has to share, you know, his knowledge of Boss gear alone is encyclopedic. The part 2 is coming. So you shouldn't feel shortchanged, because coming up is some of the best rock and roll war stories, anecdotes. Simon is a natural raconteur. Tune in for the part 2 when it comes. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, Simon Lees. Come on! A massive welcome to the channel, Mr. Simon Lees, everybody.
When I'm playing chords, I want to hear some separation between the strings, so
Yep.
so I can let the plectrum kind of drag a little bit, and you get that. I mean, it's not terrible, but but this is what it should be.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that sounds like Simon Lees to me. That sounds like
good.
It's
funny. It doesn't matter what I play.
It's a really, you know, they say that tone is largely in the hands, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, it's quite an amazing thing to hear it 20 years later, man.
Years ago, early 90s, the Zip Theatre based in the New Hampton Arts Centre.
No, Zip well, yeah.
And they had a thing called the Rock School.
They
used to call it Rock and Roll on the Dole. There was a guy teaching guitar, and he says, you know, best advice I can give you, Simon, is to develop your own style. And I'm like, how do I do that?
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, you clearly have.
So, and that's the thing. That's a weird thing.
You clearly have, yeah.
When Budgie recorded the album that I'm on. I remember being in this studio, and I phoned my wife.
Just casually dropped Budgie into a conversation.
Well, I was excited, you know, and I wanted, and there was a guitar solo section, and I sort of held the phone to the speaker. I was like, "This goes, I can tell that's you."
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, and there are some videos of you obviously playing with Budgie online, and it is immediately, to me, like, it fits with the band, like it's tastefully done, but like you can hear.
Yeah, it suited me, to be honest.
And it suited the band, I would say. You've mentioned it, so we might as well go there. How on earth did that happen? How do you get into a band like Budgie? How does that
I was in the middle of a bass lesson. I got this guy around who was a big Metallica fan. The phone goes, and there's this bloke on the phone, and he says, hello. He got the funniest accent, dumbest accent you've ever heard. It's brilliant. He said, this is Paul Cox from Noteworthy Productions. I want to know what you think about the band Budgie. And I said,
it's Tuesday morning, man.
I'm doing this lesson, you know, so I'm a bit preoccupied, and I had heard of them. A guy lent me one of their albums a while ago, and I thought, nah. And I said, I think they're a bit dodgy, to be honest, mate. And he says, well, we need a guitar player. And it was like, zip, 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 you know.
It's like that the Alan Partridge things where he's like, can I surprise you? I like wine. You get the phone call. You have to audition next, or
Yeah.
with the band, or you
Yeah,
have to send
absolutely.
a tape.
I think I did because I'd got.
They must have seen you.
I'd got an
presume.
album out by that point anyway, so I just really, here's my album. So the manager, who obviously lived reasonably local, he dropped off a bunch of Budgie albums for me to learn.
Nice.
But then he set up an audition, and I couldn't make it because I'd got a holiday booked to Norway, and it was like, I mean, it wasn't a big thing, but it was kind of like, well, but
I'm not going to not go on holiday.
Yeah, it was my wife's birthday, and I says I'm not going to be available. So we literally came back from Norway, suitcases hit the floor, phone goes, Simon, we need a guitarist. And it was like, shit, okay, well, if there's still time, I'll come down, So I had to drive to Cardiff, because that's where...
Yeah, of course, the band.
Yeah. I saw a guy coming out the studio, and he said, good luck, mate. It was a guy from Oswestry Way, I think.
Okay.
I kind of found out who he was. But they had Brian May's Guitarist. Didn't know there was such a thing, but they had,
The Red Special just went to audition.
Yeah.
I mean...
But apparently he sort of, his attitude was, well, I'm not going to play that, and I'm not going to play that like that.
I only do Queen songs.
Basically, yeah. So apparently I was the only guy who turned up who'd actually bothered to learn the songs,
Wow.
And so I did my bit. And
they said, presumably on the day, they're like, thanks so much, we'll let you know. Or...
Well, the singer Burke and the manager walked out. I don't know I think Steve stayed in their room because we were chatting about my guitar. So he says, you've got a nice chunky tone there. So,
Chunky tone, mate.
And they came back in and they says, yeah, we'd like to,
Wow.
you're in, sort of thing. And it was like,
Bizarre.
shit, wow. First gig we did was a club in Oxford, the Zodiac Club.
Zodiac, yeah. I lived in Oxford. Like that band, basically, that I was in just after.
Yeah.
Well, the whole time I had lessons with you, and afterwards, we all moved down to Oxford together. Reason being is because part of the reason I came for lessons with you is that I auditioned to go to Guitar Tech, Guitar Institute. So you were preparing me for that. Right, at that time. So so I've played as I know it well, obviously, yeah. But that's a tangent.
That was my first Budgie gig, very nerve-wracking. And the second Budgie gig was the following Saturday at the Sweden.
So you were pretty busy, like straight away with them.
Well, it was a warm-up gig for this Sweden Rock Festival, which is
huge,
30,000 people.
Good lord!
They got two main stages, kind of at opposite ends of this huge field, and that weekend. Well, say we were on just before Motorhead.
Wow! Did you meet Lemmy?
I used their Portakabin because I had to pop to the loo just before we went on stage. It was just like
the pre-show.
I've got to go. At that point, it was Vanessa Warwick was introducing us, and I was in Motorhead's Portakabin having a wee. But it was like we'd got an intro tape, which I knew I'd got a bit of time, so I sort of zipped myself up. Looked down, and I'd splashed on my flipping trousers, and you could see it, and it was like shit.
Stage show.
So I legged it to the side of the stage. It was the wrong side, and it was a big ass stage. I mean, and so I had to run around the other side of the stage. The manager's at the top of the stairs going, "Come on!" And so I had to go behind the black curtain, like at the back of the stage, got on my side, and then picked up my guitar and more or less started. And I looked down, and it had dried.
Nice.
So it was like, wow.
But what were you playing in Budgie? What did they hire you, like for a flying gig? Did they hire you?
The backline every time we played abroad, the backline was rented. So it was always Marshalls. It was always apart from in Poland. But that was my first experience.
What Marshall? Or just it could be anything,
it could be.
800, 900 or something.
Generally, yeah, I can't remember what the first one was. I don't know. There might have been DSLs.
Nice. I had a DSL.
But yeah, or 800s. It could have. Yeah,
they did the job, and you presumably were running your effects?
At that point, I was on. Yeah, I was. I'd got the second Boss multi effects that I'd had, which was the ME10.
Nice. But you weren't doing. You were using the amp distorted, I presume. You were using the.
No.
Were you running into the front of the clean channel?
Always use the clean channel.
Mate, yeah.
I never, because I wanted consistency. So no matter where I was, as long as I could get a decent clean sound out of the amp, I knew.
So that is in itself basically how people do it now, isn't it? So that years and years ago, like I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but it was way before captures and stuff like that. Like you were doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Like so you're taking out there the variable of like the amp being dodgy. You know,
some of them were.
Well, they like rental gear. It often is, isn't it? And it's so that's just it fascinates me, man. You know, like the fact that you were like, okay, like we're gonna minimise, you know, and you were like doing what is basically like normal now, isn't it? Like you know, everybody's on Kempers or whatever else.
But it was just really nice to be able to do that. So you know, you could more or less be self-sufficient, kind of. You know,
like the Budgie thing. To step up to that says to me a couple of things about like the caliber of the player you are, right? And you know the sort of the professionalism, and you know that is a professional gig and it's paid work, and you know you treat that in a different way to if you're like knocking around, you know, on trying to get a record deal or something like that.
Absolutely.
And there's a different set of skills involved, right? Completely. So there's two things I'd love to know. The first one is like how professional was it? You know, like in the sense, did it feel like a big step up? And two, like on a practical level, were the things that were new? Like did you have to like invoice the band? The things like how did that? Like you're a session player in that situation. So how did that work? Like the business side of it as well.
Yeah, the payment thing was pretty loose. I mean, that I'd get paid. It was always by check, and it still is when I get royalty checks and stuff. The record company, this Noteworthy Productions, they were set up because they were fed up of the fact that they basically signed away all the rights to all the previous records. Budgie did, yeah.
So classic there, isn't it?
I mean, a lot of bands did. Hawkwind did it, Saxon did it, with quite a few. But
so classic.
So they thought as a way of getting something back.
Yeah, and like actually making their intellectual property pay them a little bit, yeah.
That's it. They re-released the back catalogue, and to make it more sellable, they put bonus tracks on, which I was on, like the first 4 albums worth.
Oh, wow, okay. So you're on like when the re-releases, you're on like the original Budgie records as well. That is crazy, man.
So there was an official version of Bread Fan with me.
And where did you record? Where does a band like Budgie record?
A place called that was in the Music Box in Cardiff, which was where all the South Wales bands used to rehearse. They'd booked a guy to bring in like a live recording rig, you know, so it was just in one of the standard rehearsal rooms.
Okay.
And he'd got 2 Fostex D108 digital recorders.
Oh, wow.
So they were 8-track, and he'd synced them together. And we did everything via that. So I mean, at that point, I hadn't even got my Marshalls, so I had like a mishmash of stuff. I got a PV Bandit with an extension cab. And then on top of that, I'd got a bass amp, a PV bass amp going into a Marshall 1B12. But together it sounded pretty good. I mean, there's a video that I've got on my YouTube channel, because I've got a playlist with Budgie videos that I'm on. We played a song called Parents, and it was one of
their big hits.
Yeah. Much. I mean, there was 3 gigs in the last bunch of gigs I did with them, and they were all in Poland. And it was the first night of the run, and it was the best I'd ever played this song, and some guy captured it.
Nice.
And you can hear the tone that I got. I was going through Marshall 4B12s, but Soundman heads based on a H&H type of thing, you know. So it was the clean sound was the thing. First time I went to Poland, the company was there, and he says you can use Marshall, or you can use the Polish amp as Soundman. And I says, I'll use Marshall if I can. And they got this Marshall, and it was awful. It was just like beating up. Couldn't get a clean sound out of it.
I'll take the Polish amp.
Yeah, I said, can I try the sound, man? And it was kind of like Back to the Future. And I'm like, oh, bloody hell. You know, it was, I thought, yeah, wow.
Nice.
They were good.
And so what would that be, like a 50 watt, 100 watt head or?
100 watt head.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I think it was twin channel.
I'm going to have to have a little look for that, yeah.
I doubt if they're still around. I mean, it was sad because on that tour, mini tour thing, they said, next time you come, we have a gift for you, a 30 watt Soundman combo. And I was like, that'd be lovely, but whenever I left the band then.
Oh man! If you don't mind talking about it, what ended? You know, how did that end with Budgie?
I was fed up of being told what to do. Basically, I mean, I'll take that up to a point, but when people start saying what I can and can't do outside of the band, which they were,
can you be more? Do you want to be more specific?
Well,
than
yeah.
that, or?
I mean, with me and
like clothes, like or like what, like
setting up other bands,
shop at
basically.
Asda instead of Sainsbury's. What are we talking here?
Me and my mate started a project called Anubis, and it was just a bit of fun. It was just a bit of, but my mate's very good at marketing and making things to sound bigger.
You pop up online,
right,
and they see that and they're like, you can't do that.
And
so they wanted an exclusivity.
Yeah,
or at least like a visibility.
I said, look,
thing.
I said, mate, you employ me for basically 3 months of the year because we only toured from September to December.
Yeah.
With the odd other gig literally dotted about here and there. And I'd always prioritised.
Never missed a show.
Yeah, good Lord.
Yeah.
So if a show came up, I'd do it, you know.
Obviously.
But when it comes to my own free time, because I wasn't paid a wage, I wasn't on a salary or anything.
No, you're per gig.
Freelance, yeah.
Which I think is like that is the reality for even people that like are at that level, which is like a serious level. It's like if they're not touring, they're not earning. Yeah. Maybe that's not obvious to everybody, but that's the way it is for a lot of people, right?
The touring was stressful financially because I wouldn't get a check until the tour had finished. So I'd got 3 months to sort of survive.
Pay the mortgage still.
Yeah. And there was a couple of times where I had to say to the manager, look,
you need to advance it.
Yeah, and he paid his face. So I was having battles like that as well.
It's always that stuff, isn't it? That's really interesting, Simon. You know, I mean, to hear that. And I completely understand that.
So there was always...
totally get why you would go, well, you know...
Yeah,
there are 9 other months in the year where I need to be working.
So there was always like stresses outside of the music, you know. People don't even think about that side of it, you know.
And touring, travelling and touring is stressful on any level.
God, yeah.
And also just the general grind of not grind, but like the general run of a day on tour is not like a sort of normal.
Especially when things aren't going as they should, and towards the end, we'd get in the car. It's like. The drummer Steve, he asked if he could come in the car with me and the manager, just to get away from the singer kind of thing because it was so depressing. And so it went from him. He was happy then, and then we'd have these conversations, and it was like we'd get in the car and we'd say, right, we're not going to talk about whatever we're going to talk about, you know. Literally 5 minutes into the journey and we'd start bitching about this and that, and it'd be like, God, you know, we've had a day of this. And this went on week after week after week. So, yeah.
If you I think, you know, what an incredible experience, man, on many levels. And I'm sure, you know, we got to that. Like, let's not dwell on it because I'm sure you had like an absolutely.
I could feel my Twitch starting.
I'm sure it was like a hugely like brilliant experience on like loads of levels. Well, but the reality is you were joining, right? And I'll just make a very quick point on this. You were joining a band that has you were essentially like married, you know, moving in with a married couple, right?
Yeah.
Like that is the reality of like joining that, and that's session work like for anyone, but particularly with like established bands, like that is part of what you're getting paid for is like to actually exist in that environment, put on a personal level. Like I'm sure, like I know that you wouldn't have struggled with any of the guitar parts, right? But like part of what the session is like actually being paid to like, you know, hang out with those people.
Yeah.
And also being like the kind of person that they want to hang out with. You know, it's like,
and to be honest, you know,
being
we
like,
did get on. You know, I mean, I did struggle with the manager. I think everybody did.
Well, I mean, that's what they're there for, isn't it?
But to be fair, without him, it wouldn't have happened.
No,
it would have just
of course it
ground
wouldn't.
to a halt. You know.
Well, somebody's got to be the that guy. In a situation like that, you know.
But yeah, away from the band, I mean, the Burke Shelley, the singer, he died a couple of years ago.
Pretty recently, yeah. Saw that, yeah.
Outside of the band, he was brilliant. It was a great character.
Mm-hmm.
He talk about a massive range of things, very, very funny,
Mm-hmm.
and great. You know, really good. And Steve, you know, I used to share a room with Steve most of the time when we were touring the UK.
It's a drummer.
Yeah. And we got on great. We had some great after gig chats over a bottle of wine, usually.
Very cool.
In the old Premier Inns, you know, up and down the country, and
Filled with rockers. Premier Inns are.
Oh yeah.
You could walk into most Premier Inns. Premier Inn, if you are one of our wonderful international viewers. If you don't know what they are, that it's like the Holiday Inn, but maybe a bit better or worse depending on which.
If you're visiting the UK,
treat yourself.
Go to a Premier Inn because you won't be. You don't have high expectations,
but you might bump into
right.
a 70s rocker.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. But Budgie was like one of the things that I really wanted to ask you about.
Cool.
And I know
it's nice, you know, because
that was happening when I was like there was whenever it was like 18 months, 2 years, maybe 18 months that like I was in your life the first time, right?
Yeah.
And
I feel bad for not
not
remembering.
I know how it goes. No, maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was a year, but you know, like even so, it's like.
But it's like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what do I?
But it's a short. It's a comparatively short amount of time. But what strikes me, I mean, obviously from a teaching point of view, you know, like I learned a crazy amount in those 12 months. We'll come back onto that. But it's amazing how much of like your life and your music has remained with me, right? So like the Budgie thing, and then like there's a few other things really that I just thought I never asked you about at the time that I wanted to definitely kind of talk to you about. And so the first one of those is, you know, winning Guitarist of the Year 1998, and I'm going to pick the guitar because this is the little. I told Simon I've got a little surprise for him.
Oh, hang on. I wonder.
What's going on here? That is a lot louder than before.
Well, just kill us with volume, mate.
No, I don't. Oh, we're in drop A still, aren't we? I don't think that's why it's got louder, but I told you I planned a little surprise tonight. So the first surprise was I have built my 2004 rig, but that's not the surprise. The surprise was. Are you ready for this? So, like we mentioned, things that stick with me, right? Where's my plectrum? So this tune, and I found it recently.
Yeah, that's right.
Whoops.
Wow.
Yeah, and
what a jam.
Can you show us how that's actually meant to go? So if I'm not, if I'm correct, that is the. You see how excited I am? I'm like, genuinely. That song is is that what you won it with?
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Please show us how it actually goes, Simon.
Yeah. So
what? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I know there's a lot more to it than that. Go and listen to the song and watch the great video. That's where I kind of had to do the refresher. But that melody has literally stuck with me for 20 years, if you can believe that.
I thought it was like a last-ditch attempt, really. I had one more tune in the locker in case I didn't get anywhere that year. But I didn't need it in the end. But it took me 6 years of trying.
Did I say what it was called?
Crab Racing.
Crab Racing. Yeah. 2, 3, 4. Very cool, man. So, how do you win Guitarist of the Year? How does that happen?
Apparently by not being too technical.
Well, I mean, do you know what? Maybe because that was it. It's a great melody, though, right?
Yeah.
It's to me, it's got
Well, Simon Bradley said it was as catchy as the coal going around backstage at the time.
I think there's so much to be said for that because, in terms of your playing as well, right? Like when I came to you, I knew certainly that you could give me the technical bits that I needed. So that you taught me cage, you taught me how to tap. Right?
Cool.
I didn't know any, and a bunch
of course, my tapping method is different to everybody else's.
Yeah, so middle finger.
Middle finger. But the thing that's different about it is most people sort of use the Van Halen, Satriani, Steve Vai approach. And I mean, let's face it. Why would I go against them? But
he bloody did.
They do this thing where they kind of they sort of push downwards, which to me is just bananas. Why would you do that? Makes more sense to me to pluck the string as if you were a classical guitarist. That's why they, that's it. The only thing you've forgotten,
go on,
is when you're plucking upwards. If you're not damping the other strings, you're going to get.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is use your thumb to sit on the strings that you're not playing.
So most of that stuff I do go down, but the thumb mute, I teach that. It's just amazing what sticks with you, isn't it?
It's nice, man.
Going back to the Guitarist of the Year, I think given your skills, as I mentioned, that's why I kind of initially thought, I need to do this, and this for the GT. Guitar Institute audition. One thing that I learned that might surprise you, and I don't know if you see this in your own playing, is the melodic sense. So you shred, you can do that, but compared to most other shredders that I've ever listened to, the Simon Lease lead sound to me has a melodic element that I think in even many of the players that the guys at home would have heard of is missing.
Yeah.
So would you agree? Would you
for sure?
Do you think that? Do you consider that?
I like a good tune,
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to have that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously in the music you write, but I'm talking about in the solos as well.
Yeah.
In your lead, just when you're improvising, that's the thing that struck me is that there was structure and there was melody and there was
There's got to be a
musicality.
Because I mean, people talk about if you want to improvise, you've got to know what key you're in, and then you can use any of those notes in the scale on top of the chords, as long as the chords don't change key.
Yeah.
Jobs are good, and But it's I like to play in such a way that if you took the chords out, you'd still have a pretty good idea what they were.
That's really interesting.
And so that's so it's got to make some sort of musical sense, I mean, there are times where I just go absolutely bananas, but it's
one thing that I really love to watch on your YouTube channel. It was I think my favourite thing that you've done as far as your content was when you would make the backing tracks of like famous, just like inspired by famous songs, right?
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
And then the bit that I was always waiting for, the bit that I used to love, right, is when you'd go, we're just going to paste. You make the loop, right, and you're going to like paste the bit, and you'd be like, let's just see how long that is. 10 minutes, yeah, I'll be fine. and then like the end of the video, right? Because this is what I liked about it was that it was like you were just woodshedding, that then it was this. You get.
Well, it wasn't a polished thing.
You get 10 like amazing minutes of creativity, and you could see your process and
I mean, there's some bits on.
I love that. And
I cocked up so badly it made me laugh, and I wanted to show.
I like that though.
Well, it's human.
I like to see that.
It's like because I was churning out 2 videos a week, and
that was in the 2 video a week time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was time consuming, you know. And I was trying to fit in as much cycling. At that point, I was cycling, 10 hours a week or whatever.
We'll have to do another podcast about like the fitness regime. Of improving the well-being of the rock musician. We'll do that another day.
I mean, I'd cycle from Wolverhampton to Ludlow and back.
Which is quite far, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's like 75-mile
round trip,
120 kilometres, whatever.
Real deal.
And then churn out one of those videos. So some of the videos I am hanging. I'm absolutely, but I want to do it because it's like,
So they were post-cycle.
Yeah,
that is mad. That adds a whole that adds like a whole other like crazy element to it, man.
It is. I mean, what I like to have in the background, you'll see a clock, and so you know. There's no cutting or editing or anything.
Yeah,
so
I noticed the clock.
Yeah, so there was one video. I can't remember which one it is now, but the improvisation was such a car crash. I had to start it.
I used to like the kind of. I think you used a couple of different camera angles. I used to like the kind of the Rye looks to camera. You'd be like clicking away, and you'd be like. I just found them so relaxing.
Great.
I mean, I will say it again. Like, you were doing YouTube long before YouTube was what it is now. Certainly.
Well, I'd heard about this woman who folded towels and talked in a quiet voice, and I thought, I'm sure I can make something a bit more interesting than that.
Yeah, I love those. I love those videos. I actually think the other thing that I really got into was that that reminded me of being in the room with you. It reminded me I just found him to be kind of very authentically you in terms of your playing. And
I didn't have the energy to put on the front.
Yeah, maybe that's it, man.
So you got to tire yourself out first before doing these videos.
You need a 75-mile cycle. Prior to any kind of practice. Come on now. No.
That was like one of those Friends in musical interludes.
I grew up in the 90s, and the 90s had a specific guitar culture, and each decade, has its own sort of identity, doesn't it? Musically,
for sure,
and within the guitar culture as well. So I wanted to just go back to when you started playing guitar, really, and maybe you could tell us, what was obvious stuff like influences, but what was it like round in Wolverhampton? Because I love local history, and I think local music history is something that's often overlooked, maybe. So just tell us about how you got into it and your first guitar and all that stuff,
Mate of mine,
CC again.
Mate of mine, shout out to Richard Dring, old school mate. He had an electric guitar. He'd already been playing classical guitar for a while, and he got this electric guitar kind of thing, and I was like,
What was it?
Oh, dude.
It
was an electric. It was a black Les Paul custom copy made by Hondo.
Oh yeah.
And it was a Hondo 2.
Yeah.
And
Familiar with that.
I remember trying it. I was 11, so it was just after the Christmas '82, I think it was.
You were 11, yeah, when you came.
Was it? No, hang on, no, 81. 81ish. Yeah, Christmas '81.
People start 82. A lot younger these days, don't they? Like you get
some of them do
really young kid. Yeah, maybe not always for the best, right?
Well, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So I thought, well, I'll give it a bash. My first thing was like, well, these strings are a bit close together. Do they make them with wider necks? And he says no. He says they're all standard, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll just work with it. So. There were four guitar shops in Wolverhampton at that time. The shop that I bought my first acoustic from, a K folk guitar thing, I can't remember what it was called, man. It wasn't
One Way.
No, it was on the street where it's like Snow Hill. It was like it was on Snow Hill, where Fred Williams and the famous Snow Hill Chippy, where we used to go on the way back from Scruples nightclub.
Nice. When Wolverhampton had nightclubs.
So that was where I got me, but I wouldn't. It wasn't. It was more like a sheet music type of place.
Yeah, like a Rodens.
Yeah.
But they'd have like 2 or 3 guitars.
That's it.
Like
yeah. One Way Music, obviously.
Fantastic shop.
That was in a different location, kind of beneath a multi-story car park.
Wow, never knew it there.
Right by the Mercedes garage.
Wow.
Just next to the ring road.
Was that their original location?
Yeah, that's where
Didn't know that.
And the bus, because I grew up in Wombourne, and the bus from Wombourne used to drop you off literally.
Yeah,
right
so you'd come up the Pen Road.
Yeah. So I'd come out of the bus every Saturday morning, straight into One Way Music. Can I try that? And they'd be like, oh, God's sake, are you going to buy it?
Was it like
Mick, Roger, and Andy?
Was Andy? Yeah. The same 3 dudes.
Andy was on a YTS.
Wow.
He was on a YTS scheme at the time.
I think he told me that some years ago. That's cool. Yeah.
Literally 2 doors up from One Way was another place called Music Stop. And that was
I've heard of that one.
A much darker, dingier, sinister sort of looking place. It was quite small. And they have like guitar amps floor to ceiling. That I remember they used to sell orange amps.
Interesting.
Which at the time I used to think, Jesus, that looks like my mum's cooker,
I've got a Tiny Terror combo next door. Really cool.
And that's it. I mean, they become popular again. But at that point, and what other guitar amps? A Pro amp was one. Oh God, there was.
And so, what kind of guitars would they be stocking in?
Tokai had just come out.
So, like in the early '80s, what as young Simon Lees would be looking up at?
I'll be looking at Squiers Strats, the original ones,
like decent.
The ones that were like better than the USA ones. Tokai, which were
Strats and Les Pauls.
Strats and Tellin. You didn't get many Les Pauls. Not copies.
No, okay.
I know they did them, but we never seemed to get them in Wolverhampton. One Way used to do Gibson when they first started, but they stopped that.
And were they like encouraging the shops? Did they let you come in and play, or was it like you open the door and they're like, "Get out, mate"?
One Way
show us the cash first.
They were kind of they tolerated me. Music Stop were a little bit more laid back. I mean, there was a guy there that's a proper rock dude, 70s rock dude, like long hair, couple of teeth missing, but he was a lovely guy, and he was happy for me to try anything out. I was in there with a mate, and there was a guy. I wanted to go on this Tokai Strat. I think it was like a baby blue colour thing.
This was before you had an electric.
I had an electric.
You had so what was your first electric?
Oh God!
Just like
my dad came home with it once, and he asked my opinion, and I didn't want to offend him.
No. Well, you were grateful, I presume. Whatever.
It wasn't as a gift. Yeah. This was like my colleague at work. His daughter, she's given up the guitar. She doesn't want it anymore. But he just wondered what he thought of it, and I didn't want to offend him, so I said, "Oh yeah, it seems all right. Yeah, it seems all right." And there was an amp with it as well. It was a K. It was Les Paul shaped. That was the best. It wasn't a copy. It was not a copy. Yeah. And it had this John Hornby Skews 3-watt amp with a volume, but it's doubled as an on-off switch and the tone. And yeah, Christmas came, and behind the curtain in the lounge was this. I was like, "Oh, you're kidding me!" So that was my Christmas, and it was like, "Oh, thanks, yeah." But at least, you know.
But it worked. It was a guitar.
It worked.
And so, like, did it feel like
I could do pinched harmonics on it?
No, but did it feel like quite kind of natural to you straight away, or
the guitar did, and that's why.
Did you have lessons?
No, that was never going to be an option.
You never had lessons.
To be honest, I wanted to be a drummer. That was the thing that.
No way.
Yeah. That is.
I was a drummer. Yeah, first.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, that wasn't going to happen. I thought, well, I always kind of liked the guitar, and I say this schoolmate of mine had one, and I thought, you know what, yeah, I'll give that a go. And I took to it really easy. I 2 hours after getting home with this guitar from this shop that I can't remember the name of.
So you bought the Tokai?
No. This was the. I did eventually buy a Tokai, but yeah. What was the name of this? The Answers on a Postcard.
Yeah.
The shop on Snow Hill that used to
very
sell.
specific request that's going to alienate a lot of our audience. But if you know the shop in Wolverhampton in 1982 on Snow Hill, is a music shop. Drop the name of it in the comments.
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah. And
there's got to be someone out there.
I will kick myself when I know, because it was. I can't believe it's not in my head anymore. But anyway, yeah. So that was me acoustic. Got it back home. 2 hours later, I could play Mull of Kintyre.
Nice.
And whistle at the same time.
Solid choice to start with. Yeah. And whistle.
Well, I mean, I was too embarrassed to try and sing, so should do. Yeah. So
Can you still play? You ever play Mull of Kintyre anymore? Or?
I'm not sure.
No.
I don't know. Just forget what key it's in.
Yeah.
Wow. God, yeah, it does start on D. You know, you feel it. I just said that was started on.
It's
on
got
G.
a key. It's got a key change in it, hasn't it? It does change in the middle. Lucy's nodding.
Yeah.
You can go and check with her.
Man, it's been.
Go and check.
It's 43 years.
Yeah.
So I got this K.
Copy.
Les Paul, not copy.
No,
but,
not copy. Yeah. Not copy. Yeah.
The next guitar I had was a Tokai, and that was actually from One Way Music.
Okay.
It was from their original series.
And did it come? Sorry, God. Tell our lovely viewers what it was.
The model was the SX65. It was black. It had a black scratch plate. Looked vaguely Strat-like.
This is 82.
This was 84, I think.
So this would be like.
I had to put up with that K thing for a long time.
Yeah, nice.
Before,
It made you the man you are today, Simon.
Oh, yeah.
Would that be like, this is a new guitar, maybe from that year? Just so, like, if anybody wanted to look it up.
Yeah.
So is it like an 84 or 85?
No, it was 84 for sure.
Okay.
Tokai started making guitars which weren't replicas of
That's CC again.
Of Fenders and Gibsons. They made their name copying Fenders and Gibsons. But they
good. They were good guitars, though, right?
Seriously good.
Yeah,
they were really good.
And they were Japanese, mate?
Japanese, yeah.
I have never played one.
Yeah.
Never played one, man. I've seen them, obviously, you know, but
you can still get them.
People do talk kind of, the Tokai Strats from the 80s. It is like one of. You don't still have it, I presume. Like you chipped it in for something, or
I did, and I saw it in Music Stop just before Music Stop ceased to trade, and it had only got about 3 strings on it and stuff. I
Nice.
think it was up for about 90 quid. It cost me nearly 200.
Which is, if
I'd have had
quite a lot of money, man.
If I'd have had the money
Back
at that
then.
time, and this was much later. This was probably early 90s or something.
Okay.
So I think I was on the dole at the time. And if I could have done, I'd have bought it back. But it had this early Floyd Rose, which didn't have fine tuners.
Problematic.
Yeah. You had to guess how far out of tune each string was going to go before.
You had to get. I mean, you have a fantastic ear, but even for you, that must have been.
It was a ball ache.
Yeah.
It's like there's no digital tuners either, so it was like pitch pipes. I soon realised.
What?
Yeah. So
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
These are the things that you don't even think of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I realised these pitch pipes weren't that accurate, so all I used to do was use the thin E note and then tune everything else by ear, kind of thing.
We are, folks. We are so spoiled in this. Like, if you're a young guitar player now, and I mean, like, we both have students. Simon is not, didn't just teach me. Simon has taught many many musicians and many people that have gone on to have careers in music. And you know, your teaching is obviously why I kind of got to know you. But I think, you know, when you're looking at the learning of the guitar, what I think, you know, in terms of like where you're coming from in the 80s and the 90s, just on a basic level, there's no information really. Like compared to now, there's nothing out there.
It was magazines. That was all we had.
Were there any guitar teachers in Wolverhampton that you knew about? Yeah, you didn't find them.
There were actually. Yeah, I think Bob Key was one of them from Codsall.
Okay.
There's a guy called Alan Wilkes as well, who I might have seen in One Way Music at some point. I mean, these are guys that have been doing it a long time. You know,
yeah,
but,
like maybe even like kind of. I guess if it was the 90s, then maybe like, you know, in a band in the 60s or 50s, like maybe even like an old jazz guy, right? At that point,
possibly.
Point I'm making, you know, my brain sort of as it does moved around a bit mid-sentence, but we were talking about the tuners, right?
Yeah.
On your guitar, and it just struck me that like that is just a perfect image of like how spoiled we are in this day and age. You know, obviously we can get hold of great instruments. We have so much more choice, but like the access to education, the access to people like you, right now, like you people are listening to you talk. That just where would you meet those people?
Yeah, well, that's it.
It was like
you had to
existed outside of your reality, presumably.
Yeah. I had to be self-sufficient, and I've always had to do that. You know, it's like when I'm making records or whatever. I had to buy the gear, figure out how to use it, figure out what you know how to put things together and things like this. You know, so it's always been. I suppose it's
always been driven by.
It's like, the engineering background as well. It's like my dad was an engineer, so he had that mind where he could. He didn't have to be taught stuff to be able to do it. You know.
That's cool.
But yeah.
I don't know if I said this on camera earlier. The way I coil a cable is this man is responsible for it, and I've taught many people how to coil cables like that. And we were just talking about his high quality cables.
I got that from that Zip Theatre rock school that I mentioned. That's what taught me how to do it, and I've been evangelical about it ever since. You know?
Have we got a spare jack lead anywhere? We have, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, we've got one.
Or an XLR.
Yeah,
let's. You can see. We might as well do the demo, right? So this is what Simon taught me.
And I've done a video on this. It's quite a lengthy video.
Okay. So yeah, go and check the video out. So basically, see that there? It's all in the little thumb, trick of the thumb. And then what you don't do, which I'm obviously not going to do on, because I mean that looks like a brand new cable now. I don't know how long you've had that.
Yeah, not that long. It's
But your cables will last longer. So that's another thing you can thank Mr. Simon Lees for.
See.
Cables, you know, potentially not the most, potentially not giving them huge value for money here, right?
It's not all about the glamour.
No, that's true. But let's get into the glamour for a second. I wanted to just touch it now, like we are running out of time for the first episode, or you know, maybe just giving away maybe we'll come back for a second episode at some point.
Yeah, but I think CC would like to come back.
Yeah, she's welcome, man. Yeah. Anytime. I wanted to touch on your one-man rock show, which I think is like, you know, locally at least, you know, if you want to say that's put in terms of your public, profile. That's maybe what you're most known for, right? Like being
makes sense.
Like in terms of like, let's say the amount of people that. Obviously, you reach tons of people with Budgie, but over the years, I reckon One Man Rock Show has probably reached more members of the general public. So do you want to tell people what that is if they've never heard of it?
Well, it came about through wanting to be able to perform live and wanting to get paid for it and try and earn a decent amount of dosh. You know, it was never an ambition for me to go out and play in pubs and clubs to backing tracks. That was never the grand plan, but it has allowed me to live as though I've got a proper job, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Can I just jump in there very, very, very quickly? Because that, as a teacher, like, you know, obviously there's many things that stick with you. I've listed a few here, and I've mentioned a few already. But like, one of the most inspiring things to 18 or 19-year-old Matt, right, when I met you, I was like, I used to come around for a lesson at like, I think it was like 1 p.m. on a Tuesday or something like that. It was like a weekday lesson, right?
my favourite type of customer, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's like a 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, something like that. And I was just like, oh, this guy he's not doing this, he's doing this for his day. Like, he's doing this in the day. Like, this is your job.
Yeah.
Like, and so that was like, I'd never even like thought about, I guess what I'm saying is it opened my eyes up to the many, many different ways that is the reality of like a music career.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, that like beats the hell out of going to the office, right?
Yeah.
Because many, if not all of the musicians that I knew were not professional musicians in the sense that they all had day jobs as well, right? But if you're good enough that you can make it work, and mainly it's good enough, but it's like if you're hard working enough to make it work, that just music is your job.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you? So that's just something I thought I'd mention. Like, that was inspiring to me at the time, that you were like, I think maybe the first professional musician that I'd met, and like just 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, like, oh, like he's just what a bloody great job this is. He's like sat in his house,
and that point,
and people pay him to like learn his expertise, you know.
Yeah, I mean, at that point I did have a mortgage as well, so it was kind of, but yeah, the one man show thing, there was a guy that I used to go around his house to do some recording stuff.
Anyone might know?
No,
just like
I wouldn't have thought so, and I'm not sure where he is now. I've tried to sort of find.
And that's a local guy.
From Bilston,
Okay.
Dave Eagleton.
Bilston's near a little town near Wolverhampton,
Yeah.
in the Midlands, near Birmingham.
And he was in a duo where he used to literally play working men's clubs. That was that was the main thing, and it was just him on vocals, and he had a guitarist. And they used to just play to backing tracks. And he says, why don't you do this? And I was thinking, yeah, but I want to be in a band, you know, and I don't want to be doing Nights in White Satin and
Apache.
Oh God, yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with either of those two songs. In fact, Nights in White Satin is like, I mean, my dad, if I had to say what my dad's favourite song is, it might be that. He loves that song. He loves the big snare in the middle with the reverb.
Right, man,
into the flute solo.
Holy moly, yeah. I mean, this is
daft.
I never appreciated that. So yeah, I had to do a lot of, these aren't really the songs that I want to play, but if I want to get work, I've got to do it.
Which is a different skill, right?
Yeah. So I'll do it, you know. And over the years, I managed to filter out the stuff that I didn't want to play and replace it with the stuff I did, because I'd already got a name for myself then.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's going to make the show that much better, right?
God, because if I'm enjoying myself, I can put that across, you know, and it's,
And that is, if you can believe it, that's how I found out about you, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was like someone that I'd know, like, because I had a specific set of requirements that I wanted from my time with a teacher, because I was totally self-taught at that point, but like with the intention of becoming a bit more serious. And someone that I like, or a friend's parent or something, was like, you know, there's a guy around here called Simon Lees. And I think he does lessons, kind of thing. I think that's how it came about. I can't be sure on that, but it was like,
well, that's the
my
thing.
parents found you.
At least by that point, I had sort of got a bit of a name locally.
Sorry, Simon.
Yeah,
She's just eating the rug.
Oh no, she's been so good up to this point.
She's been so good.
Man.
But I don't want you to choke. Come on, come round here. Leave it. Good girl. Go on, have your bone. Look.
That's it.
There you go. Good girl.
She's a good lad.
She's 8 months old, bless her. You know,
Yeah, she's just changed my sound again.
Yeah. Nice. Right. Patch 2. Thanks, Cece.
Yeah,
sorry, Simon.
Yeah. So by that time I obviously got a name for myself as one of the other alternative guitar teachers to the ones that had been around for years, you know. So yeah, but I say that the one-man gigs, I started off working for an agency. I was recommended to do this by a guy called Simon Abbott, who is known for doing a Tom Jones tribute, and he's still doing it. He's been doing it 30 years more. Very good. He was on a TV show not so long back doing it.
Nice.
And he said, give these lot a ring. He says, they will get you started. And it was a company called Top Line Entertainment.
I've heard of that,
based in Gornal.
I have heard of that, yeah.
I phoned him up, told him about myself. Literally 3 hours later, I think I had about 35 gigs booked in.
What?
It was like, I was like to my dad, I was like, look at this.
I'm going to be a millionaire, Dad.
I could buy stuff. It was unbelievable.
That's super cool, man.
You know, and it was like, yeah, I was playing some pretty, you know.
Well, you don't get to choose. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have your gigs booked for you, you do not get to choose where they are. Like, you get to say, I'm never going back there again.
Yeah.
But you've got to go there at least once, right?
And to be honest, they weren't that bad.
No.
It was, and I met some great people, had some good times, you know.
Have you retired it, or is it something that you just like, you do it when you want to do it?
No. 2018 was quite a good year. I did quite a few gigs, and then all of a sudden they stopped. And
I thought you were going to say like COVID, which is obviously that was a thing as well. But 2018, yeah.
Around about that time, I had a phone call from my old mate Kev Bartlett, the sound engineer, the drummer, and he said, "How would you feel about playing bass and singing in a function band?" And I was like,
"We haven't mentioned Simon's bass playing or his singing yet." Or like, you know, the record production and all the other bits. We'll have to do that another time. Yeah.
I said, dangle that carrots. Yeah. And it was like, you know what? Okay. And then I thought about the ramifications, and it was like, I can't, if all of a sudden my one-man gigs pick up, there's going to be a clash. And
it's bound to be at some point.
Yeah. And I thought, you can't half be in a band that's like a working band.
That's true.
So I had to literally...
Unless you want to get fired.
Yeah. So I had to literally throw all my eggs into the basket.
And it's would you agree? Like, this was a piece of advice that somebody gave to me, right? Like, this was a classical guy who gave me this advice. Shout out Gary Cole if you're watching. Lovely bloke. He was like, you know, in your career as a musician, you very few of us have one thing that we do forever, right? Even the ones that like only have one thing that pays, you will have a look at their life and they'll have 4 or 5 other things. But the reality is that for many of us, there'll be 3 or 4 things that pay. Now, his advice was like to keep as many of those plates spinning, obviously for economic reasons, but also for the reason that if you let it go, like you can't just come back. You can't just guarantee that you're going to come back to it. Now, I think that's certainly true with gigs. It's true for me with singing. Like I haven't sung in front of an audience for years, quite a few years now. I'm like, I don't know how that's going to happen again.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Is there anything that you see in your own experience, your long career, that
I say
that's true?
I say my one-man rock shows, that I'm still doing them, but it has to be when I know pretty 100% that we're not going to get a band gig coming on that particular day.
So you've got to keep the band happy first.
Yeah, definitely. And that's
tough, man.
It has to be like that, but because I'm not doing them as regularly, I used to be able to do them with my eyes shut, you know, and now I'm having to think about it.
Like you get that muscle, that part of you.
Yeah. And the things become disconnected, you know.
Voice and hands, you talking, or something more?
Words is the
words.
Thing. My nemesis.
Do you use iPad or anything?
No.
Fair play, man.
Never done it.
Do you want to see what we used to use, if I can find it? You've never used Word, Simon?
With the band, yes.
Keep them entertained, Simon. I'll be here in a second.
That's it. Well, so, yeah. I mean, my problem is reading the words, you know.
So this tells you how long it's been since we've me and Lucy played live. Look at that.
Yeah.
Right.
Old school.
Early noughties auto cue.
Yeah.
So you don't use words? No. Incredible.
I don't know what it is, but when I learn a song, it's always in my mind. Oh, say, do you want to keep those lyrics or are they edible?
CC eats the historic lyric folder.
I'm always thinking, I've got to perform this in front of people, and so I need to be able to do that to such a degree that it's like an afterthought.
Yeah,
you know,
you're not thinking.
So I've got things where I kind of connect lyrics together if there's a storyline that the song the song goes through, or it doesn't have to be a story that makes sense. It's just something that I can remember. And the hardest song I've ever had to learn the lyrics for was the Chili Peppers one. By the way, wow.
I can tell you the first couple of lines. Their lyrics are always a bit obtuse, though, aren't
the
they?
chorus is a piece of cake.
Yeah.
No problem with the chorus. I could even before I even tried to learn it, I knew what the chorus was. But the steak knife con job.
Oh yeah.
Nothing makes any sense. There's no way of connecting those things.
I mean, do we? I mean, they are deliberately disconnected, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do we?
Yeah.
Put that to the test.
Yeah, go on.
Hang on a sec.
I can't play it on it. I've got a detune. I need. Okay, so steak knife, card shot, con job, boot cut. Skin that flicks is such a little bitty be there quick. My streets, but not the freeway. Turn that trick to make a little leeway. Beat that nick, but not the way that we play Dogtown. Ribcage. Bloodbath. I think I got them wrong. Softail.
It's all there, folks. It is all there. Damn.
Leave it. She's got something in her mouth. No. Oh my God.
Cece,
come here then.
Cece,
No. Come here. Come on.
Cece. Good girl.
Little mischief face.
Oh, mate.
What a good
Yeah, I
girl.
wanna
She was
cry.
like, what?
Sorry,
What have I
Carl.
done now?
Well, I think, Simon, we've barely scratched the surface today. So, as I said, if you are up for it, I know you've got I spent 12 to 18 months with you, and I know how much I learned. So, if you want to come back, that would be great.
I'd love to, man.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I must say my wife is. She'll say he likes talking about himself. You know. So it's just nice to get the opportunity, to be honest.
The
So,
secret to a solid marriage.
Yeah. She understands me.
Nice. So, all that remains, I think, is for me to say thank you for. I genuinely don't think I'd have ended up as a, doing what I'm doing now, which I love, without your input. I hugely appreciate what you gave me, and so much of it has stuck, and I use it.
Brilliant, man. Well,
You're
you're doing stuff that inspires me now, which is nice, and I'm thinking, you know what? I should do something a bit like that.
Well, you're welcome anytime. I want you all, please, if you've enjoyed this, to, if you haven't already, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to meet more of my interesting friends. Please go and check out Mr. Simon Lees. There's no Mr. It's at Simon C. Lees on YouTube. Lees. And
no apostrophe necessary.
No punctuation. And have you got anywhere else that you want to send people? Or anything you want to any promote at all?
Yeah, you could check out the function band, Sonic Boom.
Sonic Boom, yeah, that was on my list, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll do more detail on that next time. But yeah, my website is onemanrockshow.com.
You got to love that, folks.
Yeah,
You got to love that.
It doesn't get.
You got in
updated.
there early. That's probably worth a few quid now, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be.
It doesn't get updated very often, but because there's not a lot happening. But at least you can see little bits and bobs, So
Yeah, and I just think the YouTube is a great place to to really get a feel. Simon's YouTube is a really great place to go and get a feel for. It's all right. There's a dog behind a Les Paul here. Get a feel for Simon's playing and his incredibly warm and generous personality. And thank you very much for watching, folks. Till the next time.